basically left the house of Ahab without any survivors. And now he goes about his business. He starts off with a trip to Samaria, the capital city of the northern kingdom. Hi, I'm Ken Good Evans, and this is Digging for Scriptural Gems. Today we're studying 2 Kings chapter 10, verses 12 to 28. On the way, while at Beth-eked of the shepherds, he met the relatives of Ahaziah, the king of Judah. They said they had come down to greet the sons of the king and the sons of the queen mother. Jehu says to his men, "Take them alive." The men did so, and they killed them at the pit or cistern there, all 42 of them. From there he went on and he met Jehonadab, the son of Rechab, who was coming to meet him. Once it was determined that he supported Jehu, he was invited up into his chariot. He would ride with him to see his zeal for the Lord. Once at Samaria, he killed all who remained part of the Ahab dynasty. At that point, he gathered all the people and said, "Look, Ahab served Baal just a little, but I, Jehu, will serve him a lot." And he called for all Baal worshippers, prophets, and priests to come before him. No one was to be missing, or if they were, they would be caught and killed. So this was a command performance. He told the people he had a great sacrifice to make to Baal. And the text tells us he did and said everything in a cunning manner in order that he might destroy the worshippers of Baal. To do so, he had to act with deception and trickery in his mind. In verse 20, Jehu goes on and says, "Look, sanctify a solemn assembly or a special celebration for Baal." They proclaimed the special event, and messages were sent throughout Israel for all Baal worshippers to come. And they all did, filling the house of Baal to the limits, the text says. Everyone was given a special garment, and they put it on. These garments were their special priestly vestments, if you like, or aprons to be worn when anyone was worshiping Baal. Now Jehu and Jehonadab went into the house of Baal and asked the Baal worshippers to make sure that there were no infiltrators, no worshippers of the Lord inside. Once that was verified, the Baal worshippers went to offer sacrifices and burnt offerings. Meanwhile, Jehu had posted 80 men around the house of Baal, threatening them with their lives if they let anyone inside escape. So Jehu then goes in and offers his burnt offering. Once finished, he tells the 80 men to go in, kill them, and let none come out. And they did. Then they went into the inner room of the house of Baal and brought out the sacred pillars and burned them. They also broke down the sacred pillar of Baal himself and the house of Baal. And get this, they made it a latrine, a toilet or outhouse, if you like, especially a communal one in a camp or in barracks. What a fitting embarrassment for Baal. Nothing could be more degrading. The latrine was still there to the time of writing 2 Kings. And Jehu eradicated Baal out of Israel, our text says. Now we're going to stop there and dig deeper. Some believe that the execution of Ahaziah's family was an example of Jehu going too far. Knapp writes, "The sword of judgment, so far as the expressed purpose of Jehovah was concerned, should have been confined to the house of Ahab. But a reckless and ambitious hand was wielding it, that being Jehu's, and it devoured beyond the allotted limits." End of quote. Others disagree, saying Jehu did a thorough job of eliminating all those siding with or relating to the evil Ahab in any shape or form. Who was Jehonadab? Well, this was the mysterious founder of the Rechabites, who were a reform movement among the people of God, protesting the immoral and impure lives of many in Israel and Judah. Commentator Dilday says, according to Josephus, Jehu and Jehonadab were friends of long standing and both detested the luxurious surroundings of the royal family. We'll hear more about him when we study Jeremiah. Jehu wanted to show off his zeal for the Lord, which was noted in his complete and energetic obedience to the Lord, to the disregard of his own safety and comfort. Yet this statement reveals the dangerous root of possible pride in Jehu. Was it possible that he was proud of his own zeal? When I was studying this passage, I also asked myself, how naive could these Baal worshippers be to be conned like this? Well, Dilday provided me with an answer. He writes, The priests of Baal believed the deception. They were excited that their new king Jehu and the famous sheik of the Rechabites, Jehonadab, were now distinguished converts to Baal worship and were joining them in a ceremonial sacrifice to that god. Wow, maybe you can fool all the people sometimes. As for the house of Baal, you will remember that Ahab built this temple for his wife Jezebel. We read that in 1 Kings chapter 16, verse 32. Jehu now has torn it down. He worked to completely eliminate the worship of Baal from Israel, making him a unique king among the other rulers of the northern kingdom. Now, at this point, Chuck Smith points out something that we otherwise may have missed due to the text silence, here at least. He writes, however, Jehu did not destroy the 2 golden calves that Jeroboam had set up in Dan and in Bethel, and continued in the worship of the golden calves there, and thus did not serve the Lord completely or fully. He did eliminate the Baal worship, but not the worship of those golden calves. End of quote. Robert Jameson supports this by saying, quote, Jehu had no intention of carrying his zeal for the Lord beyond a certain point, and as he considered it impolitic to encourage his subjects to travel to Jerusalem, he reestablished the symbolic worship of the calves. And for us, the question remains to be seen as to whether or not that will come back to haunt him. Robert Jameson also takes a bit of a swing at Jehu as he claims that what Jehu did was done, quote, however, not from religious but purely political motives, because he believed that the existence and interests of the Baalites were inseparably bound with the dynasty of Ahab, and because he hoped that by their extermination he would secure the attachment of the far larger and more influential party who worshipped God in Israel. Jehonadab's concurrence must have been given in the belief of his being actuated solely by the highest principles of piety and zeal. End of quote. Well, you can debate that one. Finally, with respect to Jehu's trickery or lies, I want to leave you with this thought of Matthew Henry's. He writes, the truth of God needs not any man's lie. Let me repeat that. The truth of God needs not any man's lie. Here's the dilemma for me. What Henry says is true, but at the same time, we're faced with the fact that God allowed these actions of Jehu's. So I find it hard to question Jehu's motives. What about you? Leave us a comment with your thoughts. Maybe we'll get some answers to that very question next time as we study the spiritual evaluation of Jehu and his death. Join us for that, but most importantly, keep on studying the Word of God.